Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining in. Welcome to Unshackled with Tash. I hope everyone's had a beautiful week and that you've gotten a lot out of the last podcast, which was all on PTSD and complex PTSD. I've had a lot of people reach out since Saturday, which has been phenomenal to know that this is having such a huge impact on everyone. The other thing I wanted to say was thank you for all the feedback I'm getting each week with each episode that I'm dropping. Today we have an amazing guest, and this gentleman I met a few months ago, and he's now a part of my weekly treatment, to be honest, and he is phenomenal. I'd like everybody to welcome Dr. Tony Rudd, and I would like to introduce Tony as a chiropractor who runs his own business and has done for nearly 3 decades. He is very passionate about the mind-body connection and the nervous system repair. He's also a podcaster himself, and he has been running that podcast for nearly 12 months. But he's also a life coach and has been doing that for 18 years. So welcome, Tony, to Unshackled.
Tash, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on your show, and I'm so glad that you've started your podcast on fire. It's great to be able to share the message you've got with the world.
I think we both have a very similar passion for sharing this message with the world. I'm going to give a little bit of a background because being an ex-paramedic, and this will go to the belief systems that people form. I was a big anti-chiropractor. I was like, don't go there, they're going to break your backs. Well, haven't I been shown different? And that was because I had a belief that it was dangerous. And I met these guys a few months ago through a networking, and they offered me some assistance. And I'm telling you right now, in the last, I think it's been 6 or 8 weeks that I've been getting my treatment. Oh my gosh, amazing. My back, which is all from my injuries. But the other day, Tony did something, and he's not aware of this. And this is what actually I was just saying to him. I've got to tell you something. This is what it was. I had something happen a couple of weeks ago, which it was an emotional blockage. And I'm very much energy, and I am very much mind and body connection. And Tony works in this field with the chiropractors. Now, people always think cracking, snapping, but there's so much depth to that, which Tony will explain in a moment. But he did something last Thursday that released a blockage in me, and I felt it from the second, whatever he did, his magic on my neck and my head and my nervous system helped me unpack something that had actually presented as the flu. And we all know that your body, keeps score. So Tony, please tell us how you got firstly into chiropractic and what made you so passionate about the mind and body and the nervous system.
Wow, yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Tash. Look, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school, so I sort of floundered a little for a while, and I actually enrolled in university in electrical engineering. Had a great time, met my wife up in that university and played first grade footy and went pretty hard. But I just knew it didn't quite resonate with me. But I did love looking at control systems and how things. I've always been fascinated with electromagnetics and spiritual and all that sort of stuff. So for me, though, I remember in the lab and people were looking at the oscilloscopes and stuff, and I went, no, this isn't for me. So I just looked at a different field, and I'd done enough work in university to be able to swap into the chiropractic course. And I didn't even really know what it was about. I'd been to, I think, an osteopath once, like you, I didn't know much about chiropractic. I wasn't against it as such, but I just didn't have that upbringing. So when I went into the course, I thought, okay, this is some body work, and it's about, realigning the spine and the nervous system. So that to me was pretty cool. But we had a great lecturer. His name was John Kelly, and God, he inspired the vision and the philosophy of chiropractic, and that's what got me hooked, Tash. When they were talking about the body heals itself and the nervous system is the master controller, and the deep philosophy of chiropractic was something that just lit me up. And sure, I had to do all the mechanical courses and learn the skills and techniques, but I remember that was the thing that put a fire under me, going, that is something I just want to do to be able to help support people just work better. And so chiropractic is actually quite diverse, and I think that's why sometimes the public perception is a little confused about what chiropractic really is, because some chiropractors will say something, some chiropractors will say something else, and you can put that fear slant on it of cracking your back and all that sort of stuff. But when you've been in the industry for for me 26 years now as a full-time chiropractic practitioner, seeing the change, the actual results and change we've seen in people from being in alignment is just undisputable in my world, in my realm. And there might still be people out there that are skeptical, and that's fine. They're totally entitled to their belief. But the core premise, and without going right into the philosophy, the core premise is that the body heals itself, and it does that better when you're in alignment than when you're out of alignment. And most people would go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And our spine is obviously the connection point from the brain to the body. So we've all had crappy posture, whether it's working in the ambulance field trying to lift patients, whether it's working behind a desk, whether it's playing football, falling off a horse. We've all had physical things that have put us out of alignment somehow. And the difference in the spinal joints is you don't have individual control of those joints. Like you can move your elbow, 90 degrees and then put it straight, but you can't control your C3 vertebra compared to your C4 vertebra. So if one of them through a trauma or bad posture or whatever has got out of alignment, it's affecting the brain and the nerve connection, you just won't work as well. That's pretty simple to me. That's so logical. And also just seeing the actual changes in people over so many years has been so satisfying. So in my shoes, it actually gets pretty frustrating when the perception of chiropractic is what it is in the community, and people are put off because there are gentle techniques, there are safe techniques, there are some bigger techniques, and that might suit certain people. So it's finding, not that chiropractic is bad, it's just finding the right chiropractor for you. And if people could just be open to that possibility, and improve their body in the 3D body. And I know, Tash, you and I will probably get into some more deeper stuff in a moment, but just from the basic 3D body, being in alignment is just better. And I want someone to say that that's untrue. I just can't imagine that you'd be better off with your spinal joints out of alignment, irritating the nerve, than in alignment. So if anyone's out there skeptical, just think of if that perception makes sense to you on some level, maybe find the right chiropractor for you in your area and check it out.
I love that, Tony, and that's such a great description for people that are unsure or skeptics. But my question for you is, now that you have such a passion for mind body and the 3D and how people store emotions, how do you go about letting someone know, because people are convinced that their injury is because of this, and how do you go about explaining to people that that's a stored emotion or a trauma or a story or whatever is stored in there? How do you get that across to somebody?
Well, look, Tash, the reality is we don't know the cause for the individual person until we find it out. It could well be a physical cause. If you've had an accident, you've had an accident. If you've sat with crap posture in front of the computer for many years, that's probably your cause. So let's not write that off and say everything's emotional. But if there are repeating patterns that just keep resurfacing, I've been so passionate in many, many years of practice. And truthfully, at the start, I was really probably pretty mechanical, like learning the techniques and just going with the main sort of philosophies. But, in exploring down that road of life coaching and asking those big questions. And I think the chiropractic profession really could maybe do this better. What is the actual cause of the misalignment for that person? And, people would go, oh, well, they just instantly go, if it's not physical, it's not related. But if it is something that's, we'll call it emotional, an old childhood trauma, a not feeling safe, a repeating pattern in your brain that you're not good enough, that you're storing guilt in your body, resentment. Most people would know, like anxiety is felt, in the chest and the head. Anger is in the jaw and the neck. So if I'm adjusting someone and they're getting better, but they're holding anger and holding tension in their body, most people would get it that that is going to be one of the factors.
Yeah.
And to explore that in a lot more depth, it might be outside the realm of that chiropractor, and they might need to refer them on to someone like yourself, or somewhat of the deeper work I do to get to the bottom of the cause of the problem. It could be a financial stress, it could be
Absolutely.
a relationship breakup. All of the deep realms that we find is why did you keep getting that misalignment, as well as you've got a misalignment. So I think the trap is when people get so far into that spiritual realm as well, and emotional healing, that they think that can fix all things too. And as you experienced, I can clear myself with my meditation and my emotional blockage. And if I feel your neck and it's all out, it's like, that's still out. Like, we can get that bad boy aligned for you.
Well,
So yeah.
that is so perfect, and this is where, like, people don't understand that the stack on and the stack on. Yes, we are still matter, so we need assistance in particular areas, and you just nailed that. Like, I did what I can do for myself and somatic work that I can do, but I needed that extra, and it was just somebody having the ability to say, "Hey Tash, what else is going on?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, actually." Your podcast, Realms of Power, this is all about getting people to get their power back. Tell me more about that.
Well, for me, if I go back to chiropractic for a moment and just talk about what it is actually doing, we talked at the start about the body heals itself. So we have an innate ability to heal ourselves that comes from within. And that difference of that paradigm versus, say, we'll call it the medical paradigm, but it's not medical paradigm, that you need some outside help in and you become like a victim. And you're not actually taking that personal responsibility for yourself. So if you can switch that mindset to, I actually have the power within me to heal myself, and then, okay, how do I get that expressed at its highest level? So when I'm doing an adjustment, I'm not trying to fix them. I'm trying to assist their body to heal itself by creating more alignment. And so when I would do that with adjustments, I would say, so many times I'd say, "Oh, your power's on. I've turned your power on. You can now heal yourself." So that's my mantra, if you like, to how do I turn your power on? And then when we go to the life coaching and the coursework stuff is, okay, so how do we help you turn your power on emotionally or unblock something? So for me, and this is where a lot of coaches, I think, might be in ego sometimes, and they're trying to fix their patient or their client or their participant in a workshop, whereas we don't know what their perspective is. So it's, if we're looking at it from their perspective and we go, how can we get them to stand in their own power? That for me is where the podcast came from, because it came from a wanting to help people take that personal responsibility and stand into their power and turn their power on in whatever realm that is. So I've divided it up into 12 different realms that I use. And Tash, there's no way I can be an expert in all of those realms in my life. Even though I'm teaching it, I know, geez, Tony, you're down on that realm. How do I get support in that realm for me? And so I can teach it, but it doesn't mean that I'm perfect either. So that's why in the podcast, I decided that I'd create a scaffold and a framework, and then be able to get guest speakers come on. So some of them are my episodes, Tash, and some are other people in an area that I go, oh my God, I have no idea about what that is, but I can ask questions in a way that can draw out from them.
Absolutely.
And I've learned so much from hearing what other people in their realm know about how we can stand in our power. So that's where the podcast came from, with a real intent of, if one person, not how many views I've got, not how many, whatever's, but if one person can listen to that and that can help them in some way stand in their power, that will be a good journey for me.
That's amazing. And I love the work you do with the Realms of Power. And I've listened to a few episodes, and obviously I've been a guest, and I was so honored to do that. But you also run retreats now. And I would love for you to tell my community and everyone else out there that's listening, what does your retreat consist of? How long does it go for? And how often are you going to run them?
Yeah, so look, I've been involved in personal growth work for, well over 20 years. And the first, coming out as a chiropractor, I didn't, as a young chiropractor, I was like, I want to learn what I can learn. So I did like business coaching, all of the courses, all of, Dean Martini, and
Mm.
I just learned, I was like a sponge, just
Sponge.
Tony Robbins, learned as much as I could and was just like lit up by that stuff. And then, so I found a course where they were running these retreats, and I could be on their team to support, the facilitation. And I just resonated with that so well, and was able to help so many people from that. So I studied my own life coaching, and then integrated that into my chiropractic practice. But then, as like a team leader, if you like, developed skills over, a good 18 years. And I just felt, with doing this podcast, it was time for me to start running my own. So, having met so many amazing people over those years, I was able to build a team around me, because I think, again, I don't have all the answers. So, having a team to help with well over 100 years of personal growth experience combined meant that we were coming in not as newbies, even though this was a new retreat we just ran this year. And oh my God, Tasha, it was so satisfying seeing it all come together, and the change and the shift for people. So we ran that as a 3-day retreat. I brought in some unique stuff that no one's done before, because I had to bring my own, learnings. And so I created some scaffold about a process and how do people take that into their lives. Because I think you can go to a retreat and then you can get all fired up and then get back into day-to-day life and drop off pretty
Yeah,
quickly sometimes.
absolutely.
So we've built like a membership after that we're in the process of getting those participants. I actually just saw one of them today in my clinic, and he's like, "Oh my God, I can't wait for that to start," and just keep that connection going, because I think a lot of people are isolated,
Very
and
much.
sometimes when you go and do a retreat like that, putting pause on your normal life, turning your phone off, and actually just connecting with people is some of the best value you get. Sure, I can make some games, and we
Yeah.
can do some amazing processes, but some of the deepest learning is just learning off others, and sharing, and connecting. So that was the intangible stuff we did really well, because we've got such an amazing team. And yeah, I felt really blessed that I was able to support that. So yeah, we did some of the things I'm sure people have heard of before, but definitely there was some new stuff. And the processing work we did, because we wanted to go make it not so big that people have felt lost and just went under the radar. We wanted everyone to feel heard and safe. And that was a lot of the feedback we got, that they've never felt so safe and supported in a retreat style thing like this. So I was very, very happy with the results we got in that retreat.
I saw some of the testimonials, and they all pretty much wrote how safe they felt. And having been to a few retreats myself, it is so important to feel safe, and and to be vulnerable in those spaces is so big for some people because they have never done it. So yeah, I think that's beautiful that you had so many amazing feedback and testimonials that said the same thing. They were consistent in how safe and loved and seen and heard, and back to our foundations, right? Loved, seen and heard. The There is a question I'd love to ask you, and it's more of a personal. What, in all these years of doing coaching and learning personal development and the nervous system, was there anything particular about yourself that you learned and went, "Oh wow, wow, Tony, I didn't know that about you"?
Yeah, look, I could. There's so many on the list. I,
All right,
I
give me one or
even
two that stood out.
sure. Even on the retreat, like that I just ran, like even though I was the facilitator facilitating that, there's parts of someone's story that I go, wow, I can see that in me. So it was actually one of the biggest learnings was to understand about ego. And when I think, oh, I'm not in my ego, and then I can reflect back afterwards and go, oh yeah, maybe I was, and actually take ownership of the fact that I'm not perfect and that's okay. But if I just keep repeating the same mistakes, then I'm just going to bugger it up. So actually taking full ownership for my part in my communications as a chiropractor, as a coach, as a a dad, as a, husband, as all the different things. I know, geez, man, I'm not perfect. What was that ownership I can take? But also not take so much ownership that I become a doormat and I'm like too much ownership. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because that's just
absolutely.
spiritual ego as well. And
100%.
yeah, so the ego learning I've had from that, going, oh, okay, stepping truly into observation in those moments, not like I know better, I know best. I remember when I'd start doing workshops and retreats, it was like, I'm going to get it right. I'm going to win that game. I'm going to be the best.
Yeah.
And then looking back now, going, oh, fuck, that was in my ego, wasn't it? Like, if I can
Isn't it
say it
funny
like it
when you
is.
can sit back and see that? Like you can go, whoa, where did that come from? Oh, the ego.
Yep.
Damn ego.
Yeah, damn you.
Damn ego.
But
But
also have a little laugh at it as well.
because we're still human. We're still here having a human experience, and part of that is getting to know our ego and saying, okay, time to pull your head in a little bit. But hey, I love that you have seen that within yourself, because a lot of people won't, right? And they will just, and I know myself when I started this years ago, I wanted to fix everyone. I wanted everyone to know. And I had to then go, you know what? Everyone's got their own journey and they'll do it when they're ready. And even if they come and go, but I love that you could actually see that within yourself, and even this far down the track. Like, what impact has this work had on your family?
Look, I'll just start. I guess I got 4 kids. So I had my parents broke up when I was quite young. I was about 4, and they did not break up well. Like, it wasn't a good breakup. And there was, like, me sort of staying with my dad, then staying with my mum, and that was pretty traumatic. So I did a lot of work on that when I was first doing the personal growth on myself. And I just really made a commitment to myself to just be the best dad I could be. And does that mean I was perfect? Oh my God, no. But I know that I did my very best. And I think with all the work I've done, I've given my kids space to be who they are. I've supported them. I've been there for them, and I've had so much fun with them. We've played and laughed, and they've all got their life journey now. They've all got their stuff to deal with. But I know that as a dad, I did a really great job. And could I have done something better? In retrospect, who knows? We all do that as a parent. Go, oh, geez, I could have done that better. So yeah, of course I stuffed up at times. And I just own those stuff ups and go, okay, I just felt I did the best I could as a dad. So that's
I love
probably
that.
one of the best things I can sort of say for me personally. And as a coach, when I'm supporting men, particularly, as a dad myself, there's a lot of challenge in our world right now, the way family dynamics are going, and separations, and not being there, abandonment, toxic, behaviors of men and women.
Yeah.
And so if I can support someone to be a better dad through some of my own life experience and teaching, what a win that could be for that family's generation. What a butterfly effect that we could be having. So
Love that.
I know that I've helped a lot of men over many years doing that, and will certainly try and continue to do that, whether that's through the podcast, the retreats, or just, some people are just in a lot of pain, Tash. If we go back to the chiropractic, if you're just in the basic, my back's sore, I can't watch my kid play netball. I can't drive there without being cranky and getting triggered when they just ask a normal question. And you get triggered at your kid, and your kid, that one tone of voice, that one look,
Yeah.
locks into their nerve system. And for the next 20, 30 years, they get triggered when someone looks at them funny. And that's one of those scenarios, isn't it? So if I could
100%.
help them see that and reduce that, what a win that would be.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Like that, I love knowing too that, and this is where a lot of people don't understand. We all come from somewhere, and the fact that you have come from a broken home, and so did I, and so have my children. So the work I'm doing is healing a lot of the generational patterns, right? But you have made such a beautiful space for people to come into, and I have to say, going into your environment, and I said this to one of your workers the other day, beautiful Cass, It has such an inviting, beautiful energy in your chiropractic. And anyone here on the Sunshine Coast, Link Chiropractic at Curramundi, go there. It just has a beautiful energy and a space. And I love that. But I want to wrap this up with my big question at the end. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to get this wrong. And it is, if every listener could leave this conversation with just one message and one truth that could genuinely change their life, what would it be from you?
Stand in your power.
Yes. Power. I love that. And be true to yourself, right?
Sometimes saying less and meaning more actually has more oomph than anything else. And I mean that across all realms. Like, we are powerful and we're just suppressed and censored and put down. So, get in your sovereignty, stand in your power, just your life will be better.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tony. Thank you so much for your time today, because I know you're extremely busy, and I know my viewers are going to absolutely love this segment because it is so diverse. Again, it's the chiropractic, it's the spiritual, it's the mind body, it's the everything. You've covered so many areas that nobody could walk away and go, oh, I don't like chiropractic. This is beautiful. So thank you for your time. And anybody that would love to reach out to Dr. Tony Rudd here, I will put all his details in the podcast, and you can contact him through those details, which I'll put out. Thank you so much for your time today and your wisdom and your knowledge and just your beautiful energy that you bring to this space.
Thank you, Tash, so much. It's an honor to be on your show, and I really wish you the best with your show. Keep spreading your message, because, as I said, people love learning and being inspired by people like yourself. So you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap that up. Thank you all for joining us. Love to get some feedback as always, and look forward to connecting with you all next week. Take care.